ripcord. So Bellular put out a video. We're going to get into this video and see what they're talking about.
Welcome to the first Warcraft news episode of the year, and I'll tell you what, events have not disappointed. Blizzard have only been back in their office for a week, but it's now not their work that I've got to talk about. You see, if you remember the add-on video from a few weeks ago, I told you about a strange situation where Blizzard appeared to have given add-on developers an inch, and, well, there were worries that maybe a mile would be taken. And on that front, amongst some others, I have serious updates for you. Now, if you don't want to learn about coding, you're not into games, just skip this, but...
I wouldn't say that he's totally a doomer. You know, he's not, you say he's just as bad as Preach. It's one of those things where when you're trying to find out what exactly is coming, you have to listen to some of these guys that are going to be taking it and looking, because they have a lot of experience in this. You all have a lot of experience if you've been playing since vanilla. You get to see what everything is that you've had to go through, the changing of all the different talents, the different iterations, you know, the rebalancing and balancing and then balancing again of your classes, the level squishes, you know, things like that. So when it comes to people that you're going to be listening to, you want to put your ear down and listen to everything that everyone is saying. He's just one, content creator that covers it. There's many out there, and we get to get information fed to us through this if you are in the sphere of listening to all these guys. So I don't want to say everyone is a doomer, but it kind of goes by way of panic mode, and you don't want to be panicking all the time. You know, once again, this is just a game. Either way, we've kind of bought into it. We've been signing up and paying for the subscription for many years now, and I believe if you're someone that is going to step away from the game because of everything that's coming, well then that's going to be how it is. And I wish you the best if you're going to be off for a little while, but I think that everybody that's left this game eventually comes back. You know, it's one of those things that maybe you're going to wait for the first few patches or maybe even the first season to go by, and they'll work out some of the kinks. So that is what I try to do, and get you guys to kind of, talk with me about it, because I want to hear what your thoughts are on it, essentially.
Since the initial Midnight Alpha, Blizzard have been slowly giving add-ons some of their features back. And honestly, most of that's actually been great. It's been personal character information stuff and opening up customization for your unit frames and your nameplates. After all, their hard line was competitive advantage. It wasn't aesthetic preference. Then last month, I told you that Blizzard gave devs the okay on using a strange little workaround to indicate which mobs in a dungeon were casters. And now I'm going to show you some add-ons on the Midnight Beta, and you can just tell me whether they cross your personal line. So let's take a look at these. First up, we've got Northern Sky Raid Tools. Here you see custom text in the middle of the screen counting down to an event. It also has custom text-to-speech, so the add-on dev here gets instructions piped into his ears as he's playing the game. Up here we see the add-on reminding him to use his cooldown at the right time. And I think this next one is what many would find the most egregious. Here are the ads that you need to CC and the order in which you should CC them. And that's possible because the add-on has got access to enough information to customize the nameplate, meaning it can now show you the order in...
You see, so basically they are creeping back in. And this was something that originally when Blizzard came out and they were talking about removing all the add-ons, there was that whole uproar, some glee and then some doom about the state of the game and what it would look like. I think we were all hoping to see a very, very stripped down base game, complete with nothing available except those items that you would have outside of anything combat.
Big plain text. So instead of a spell icon and a stack counter, you just see gameplay instructions. So that means that even though a line was drawn in the sand and it seemed the story was closed, somehow Palpatine add-ons returned. How's that all going on? What's up? Okay, first thing, disclaimer, a lot of this is rough work. It's people working out what's actually possible given the new rules and the wiggle room provided by Blizzard. Most of the custom timers and text are not actually coming from the game itself. They're actually based on predetermined, pre-configured timelines that are made using this website. They track real time based on using whenever certain phases start, which is of course usually accurate enough with Blizzard's most recent designs. And what that means is none of this would actually cross Blizzard's original threshold of a computational add-on. That's because within the add-on, there's no logic assigning players certain things. There's just reminders of pre-assigned plans. Pre-assigned plans that you can make on an external website and copy-paste into the game, like many existing things. And I think that's the awkward part. You see, the combat API is still locked down. It's not like Blizzard unlocked it and that allowed for these new things to happen. No, all that we've got here is raiders being really creative, and they found ways to use other display tools to show things off to the player. And those display tools are the ones that Blizzard added for player customization. And that essentially is the issue. A lot of people said, look, I want visual customization of my game, not just to be stuck with default Blizz frames. Blizzard said, okay, we're going to release more customization to you, which has now enabled this. So the question then is...
And that's one thing about everyone out there in the sphere of gaming or computers in general. I mean, there are so many smart people that can look at this and be able to use workarounds to give players an added advantage. You know, being able to give them that added gameplay that they require. Like you have the people that for the accessibility of the gameplay, that they're the ones that really want this to stay in a form so that they can play the game because they have a disability and they want to still interact with the game. I mean, and then that goes into opening up more of the game so then developers can create more of the add-ons or weakors, and then other characters or players can use them as they're going through the raid or Mythic Plus or Delves or whatever their content is.
Do you think using these things, even though they're not computational, would be an advantage? And if so, given a lot of what Blizzard has said, do you think it should be allowed? But if you think it shouldn't be allowed, should that be at the expense of the customization features that so many people, including for accessibility reasons, said they wanted? Well, to state the obvious, what was showed off in those demos is, yes, a competitive advantage. Those things are absolutely useful. Blizzard themselves have stated that they consider knowledge to be a part of gameplay. That means knowing what a spell does. It means remembering what to do during a certain mechanic, deciding whether or not you need to press a defensive or a healing cooldown. Blizzard want you to do that thinking, or some would even say that playing of the video game yourself, and to not just be playing Simon Says with an add-on. And the thing is, when you actually play through them, Midnight's dungeons and raids are designed around and balanced around people no longer having access to add-ons that would tell them what to do.
I wish I had pictures, and I'm sure I could Google one and show you what an add-on was that they had for Final Fantasy 14. And it was all about their raids and what they, like Final Fantasy 14, it is against TOS to use add-ons entirely. And what it would do is it would show you where to stand. It would show you literally in the encounter where to stand. Don't stand here. You know, I'm trying to get the picture. Oh no, it won't come up. You're sucking. And they cover all this because one thing that World of Warcraft has that, for instance, Final Fantasy 14 doesn't have, it has the RNG of it. Not everything that is happening on the screen is entirely the same all the time. You know, every mechanic is not there every minute in every encounter the same, where all you have to do then is just use a memory game of how to be able to do it. And these add-ons that they would have would show you this is the safe play to... well, in a say like Fractalus. Fractalus, if you have the Northern Sky tool, you put down the green marker, and you know this is the safe space, and then you would put out your other world markers to show you where to put those at. But that's what made that totally a laughable encounter, where when you didn't have that, you were able to just go ahead and play that encounter natty and figure it out on your own. This is somewhat different here.
And that means material changes that I think many people will love. Casts come out slower. There are fewer casts, and mechanics generally take much longer to resolve, meaning that you are playing within the mechanic for longer, rather than just that feeling of, you need to react really quickly and be completely right now, sorry, you're dead. Which to a lot of people was stressful, thus driving them wanting add-ons. But those add-ons, of course, made solving the problem easier, meaning that Blizzard would then, make it not last as long, or make the right answer be something you'd have to come to way quicker, right? Basically, it led to Blizzard tightening their design tolerances so much that a lot of average people felt left behind by how the pace of the game had developed. And it's not just content design that's changed. The game has already got built-in text-to-speech for most mechanics, and that's because bosses have got distinct lines that actually tell you exactly what they are doing. I mean, the obvious example is whenever your man says Bone Storm, he's going to cast a Bone Storm, but you get the picture even though it's not always that clear. Because those voice lines are text-to-speech, they're just text-to-speech with real flavor and storytelling. And that means my worry is simple. If these tools see widespread use, we'll be back to square one, where the game will be too easy. If these get too useful and too ubiquitous, then it may mean that for the next game patch, Blizzard would have to speed all of their things up again, which could get us back to the original problem. Or perhaps even worse.
Exactly. That's one thing. That's what they were trying to do. That's why they were talking about reducing the amount of add-ons that we would have, so that they can then go into not making the encounter so heavy. The mechanics were just getting to the part where it was only the 1% that could do all the mythic raid, for instance. Like the on-ramp to be able to get into mythic raid is just way different than it used to be many years ago, many expansions ago. And now they just are, they're very mechanic heavy. It just, I'm trying to think of one, if it was in, I think it was Shadowlands. I want to say it was in the first patch. They were hard, but they still gave you the availability to get into like boss number 5, boss number 6, without even having to be on comms. It just was a matter of learning the fight. You could learn it. Now, I don't think it's that way anymore. I think it's you more or less have to be with a real raid group using real comms, whether it be Discord or in-game WoW comms, and you have to learn it, and hours at it.
They'll go back to throwing random swirlies everywhere. Now, it is not full power weak or a nonsense, but it is still that messy thing where installing an add-on does kind of mean you could have an easier time of the game. And for some people, an easier time could actually be a time that is less fun, because if a boss is designed for a certain level of difficulty based on a certain level of player tools, but the player has access to better tools, then something that could be exciting to a player could just end up becoming really boring because they'd overpower it. To fix that problem, Blizzard could speed up the pace, but as I already said, we'd then be moving back to square one. That's the trouble. And it actually isn't everything. Relo himself alludes to known workarounds that he's actually decided not to put into his add-ons, but he notes that other people may, because he's not the only dev working on this kind of thing. Others are pushing hard to make their add-ons as useful as they can, which of course is what developers often do. And by the way, that's a great thing about developers. It gets us useful tools. I love that everywhere, developers. But the problem here is it messes with Blizzard's game design goals for the Midnight expansion. And I'll give you a simple example. Targeted Spell has found a workaround in Midnight where if a spell is aimed at you, you get an icon and a text-to-speech notification. Now that could mean, well, no need to watch enemy behavior or to learn the fight. Just react to the voice in your ear, because it could be conditional on you being targeted, or something like that. And even if that example isn't over egregious to you, well, it's a public example 2 months out from the launch of the game. Add-on developers already know of way more things that they could do, and as time goes on, well, they'll only discover more and more and more. And that means that whenever Blizzard gave players wanting more customization and add-on devs an inch, which seemed like a really responsive, good, and nice thing to do, they also, maybe inadvertently, reopened Pandora's box. And the thing is, this is not as bad as it's going to get, and we will not know how bad it'll be until it happens. So let's talk about how it seems Blizzard are out of options. What do you do if your name is Ian Hazzikostas, you're the game director, and maybe you're the guy who's got to make the call on what to do next here? It's a really tough one. If they want to stop this whole thing dead in its tracks, they could, but it would be a bit crazy because they'd have to completely kill creating custom displays in combat. It would be a bit of a nuclear option, and it would undo the last few months of work that they put into reopening customization. And that would also feel like a betrayal to the people who just wanted the customization, but maybe didn't want the problems that came around with that customization. And also, let's just be real, even if they did that, there's always another option. And
that's just it. I don't think Blizzard, maybe they did. Maybe they did, but they didn't realize what they were asking for when they said they were going to go into making the game playable straight out of the box and taking away all the add-ons and putting all those into the game themselves. I don't think they realized, and I've said this many times, I don't think they realized what it was they were in for because of the years, the many intricacies that they use in all of these. Like, there's so many tools in a lot of these. Like, this is a unbelievably big game, you know, and like he's showing you, this is Final Fantasy's UI right now that he's looking at. There's just so many people out there that can do these things for the game. How much are they going to restrict it for the player? You know, do you want add-ons? Don't you? Everybody complained about them, but they'd been around for so long, nobody really wanted them gone. I don't think. Not in this. You know, I don't use a bunch of them. My list is very, very small compared to a lot of you guys, but you know, neither here nor there. It's going to be crazy what we get.
That is on-screen overlays. They probably would be the next step. And when I say overlay, I mean ones done entirely with external programs. That happens a lot in Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy 14. If there's a problem, people will find a way to solve it. If there's a competitive advantage to be gained, I mean, come on. Formula 1, but World of Warcraft add-on development. People will find it. And the thing is, it's not because they're mean or something like that, or they want to ruin the game. It's because they're creative problem solvers who are inspired to solve problems. That's why WoW add-ons can often be so goddamn amazing. But here's the key thing. Add-ons are the easiest way to do this customization and get that advantage. And that's why add-ons are absolutely everywhere. I think the average person who's used to doing add-ons would really balk at the friction that comes with installing an overlay program, because it is just one step further, and people generally don't want more things in their machine. So I think that's the good news. It still is the case that the add-on disarmament has made add-ons weaker, and it also means it's no longer all centralized within WeakAuras. Now people would be installing multiple add-ons instead of just one, which is a more complicated setup. Maybe that means fewer people will bother. Maybe that's in alignment with people's goals. Maybe the problem is that WAGO having a solution for absolutely everything that fit into an add-on that absolutely everyone already had installed was actually just too fast and powerful. But it's a shame that's all framed in kind of combative terms. I mean, that's where Blizzard's real win could be here, doing just enough damage that only the big sweat lords are going to bother with getting 15 or 20 or 30 add-ons running all at once. Now, if a lot of this videos came off as doom to you because you love the idea of big no add-ons,
I'm sure White Rick thinks so. How you doing, Chip?
Outside of Mythic raiding, you're going to be fine. I mean, most of our guild didn't use anything except DBM for the last few raids, and we've had no issues whatsoever. I fundamentally think the notion that you need complex add-ons to play World of Warcraft at the, average or average plus players level is basically a little bit of a myth. No, you can just have some very basic things, or even nothing at all, and literally get good.
I think so.
It actually works.
Exactly.
Especially if you're playing for fun and success with your friends, rather than competing in the WoW version of Formula 1, right? Where you've got developers making custom things for your car that your raid team gets into. Weird analogy, you get the point. So in Midnight, the advanced add-on usage may just be seen for what it is by the average person. Maybe unnecessary, maybe a little bit cringe, because it's only useful to the people who need absolutely every bit of edge that they can get. And not needed for the average person, because Blizzard's design changes to the dungeons have cut off what was driving the add-on uptake at its source. And that basically was the high cognitive load and reaction time requirements of the game itself.
And I think that's where we'll be okay. That's why I'm saying I don't think a lot of this is really going to apply so much to us because we don't play at this level. I know I don't. You know, I play this game for fun and I'm still trying to have a good time and be competitive at it and win, always win. But I don't think that I play at a level that I need to really worry too much about this. You know, my rotation, if it sucks, well, then I'm gonna have to go back into learning some other skills on trying to do, you know, good damage. I don't know. I mean, back in the day, I didn't have one, and I felt like I always did pretty good. So, rest in peace, he Kelly.
Maybe if you fix that in regular content and, you know, your dungeons, your heroic raids and stuff, then maybe a lot of people just never feel they really need the add-ons because they can have fun and succeed. So if you ask me, the realistic outcome could be Blizzard not killing add-ons forever, but instead making the real sweaty ones just real niche and making people want them less because they don't feel they need them. That way, new players won't be pestered to install those add-ons, and Blizzard will have accomplished their ultimate goal, a defanging of their game design, and of course the way that their game design was made more and more combative, driven by the power of standard add-ons that most people had installed. But if you look at the chapters, you'll obviously see this is not the end of the video. What if I told you there's been talk of a ripcord actually being pulled?
We were just talking about this, right? Were we not just talking about this the other day? Yes, we were.
For doing the odd bit of teasing insider info, threw a little bit of a grenade into this topic. Apparently, there is a ripcord for add-ons. Now, you might be thinking, why are you talking about Beyblades all of a sudden? No, it's actually a callback to Shadowlands, where we were asking Blizzard to pull the ripcord, like on a parachute, to reverse their Covenant decision and avoid a bit of a game design disaster. They did not pull that ripcord, and Shadowlands hit the ground with a thud. Now, Towley said that this add-on ripcord is slowly being pulled, and I think we've kind of seen that. But the scary part is apparently an upcoming yank. You see, at first I thought he meant against add-ons, like Blizzard had basically seen all these new add-ons show up and decided to just go and shut the whole thing down. But apparently he means it in the other way, and that's because in the replies, he explains their real goal was to kill weak auras. They've done that. So apparently we will now see them loosen restrictions so add-ons can do more things. That's something going on in the rumor mill. I don't have access to any of those sources. I do have some doubts. I mean, all the blue posts and design philosophy stuff was clear. No competitive advantage. But Towley does have a lot of contacts at Blizzard. He really does. He's known a lot of those people for a long-ass time. So there's a decent chance that this is solid info, maybe being presented as loose speculation, because that is a way to respect what we sometimes call a friend DA. You know, an NDA that you don't sign because it's with your friends, and there's all a bit of a wink wink nudge nudge thing, don't let it lead back to me. And the thing is, Towley brings up some examples to support this stuff. One was the competitive advantage argument, and that was shot down.
They already explained they can't do what they intended. They've been telling that to the add-on author Discord. Lots of features will be done via add-ons. They literally told us to go download your favorite authors, add-ons for extras. Their whole competitive advantage argument out the window. Yeah, you know, you write that line, or you make that line in the sand, and you tell them you're not going to cross it, and then you find out that it's much harder. I feel like a broken record, you know, because I keep repeating myself over and over. You know, they did not know what they were getting into. Plain and simple, full stop.
Moment that they allowed caster nameplate colors. So maybe Blizzard have given up and the ripcord exists. Maybe they're in the process of pulling it. And I think if the ripcord leak is real, then we could have, I'd actually say, a real problem. Because it would mean that their plan to fix Midnight's UI before launch has failed. And if that's true, then I think it would be a bit of a disaster and a huge disappointment. Especially because it would mean we wouldn't get a proper run of it in the real live video game to actually know if it's better or worse. If, of course, it is killed in the cradle. Though in fairness, logic like that is...
Well, I mean, all of that, if you started looking at everything that they were talking about, from content creators to players that were in beta, they were telling you the simple thing of details. For instance, their damage meter was just in the game but not functional. You know, there's so much to look at, and they couldn't even get that to work. Now, I'm no developer. You know, I don't play one. I don't pretend to be one, but they can't get that to work, which means how much more can they be expected to do when it comes to things in the game that they can do as far as add-ons or add-on like deals to eliminate some of the add-ons. You know, for instance, like they already said, the one button, it's not fully optimized, but then other people will say, well, that's better than the damage that I was doing, so I use it. I don't know. I don't know.
Probably why Blizzard decided not to pull the ripcord whenever it came to Covenants and Shadowlands. And it's funny because everywhere you go, you see people claiming they're happy to see add-ons gone. But humor me here. What if that's a vocal minority? I mean, our guild has lost 2 players because they loved add-ons. Like, yeah, literally, they loved add-ons in WoW, and with this stuff going in this direction, they're just not feeling like returning because it actually removed a lot of the bit that was fun.
I actually heard somebody say they were leaving because they took away he killing. I shit you not.
For them, of customizing their setup. I guess to carry forward my F1 analogy, they liked being the driver, but also a driver with a little bit of manufacturing skill who could make their own setup. And I get that. That's fun. It's no surprise they're also EVE Online players. And maybe it's just the case that for all the people who've been vocal, that over the last few months of looking at pre-purchases and feedback, that Blizzard have just got data suggesting that the juice has not been worth the squeeze when it comes to the add-on purge. I mean, on the surface, it looked like Ian's post was...
I wonder when we'll get some of those numbers. Like, I wonder what the pre-purchase has been like for this expansion. And because since they've released the information that they're removing add-ons, everyone may be expecting this game not to be what they want to play, especially at the very beginning or on launch. So they're not pre-purchasing it. I mean, you could tell a lot nowadays by how much people aren't buying all these different consoles that people are getting. You know, Microsoft was expecting to have a huge sale on Christmas, the holidays, and they turned out to be the very low standard of when somebody was getting a $200 or $300 Switch game for their kids instead of going into buying a new, you know, Xbox. People are, I think what I'm trying to say is people are voting with their wallets. They're speaking with their wallets. They're not letting go. I mean, especially since mom and dad now, they got to worry about getting another job because the price of, you know, your heating bill or your electricity bill is going up this winter. By the way, that shit's real. And you can't go trying to spend money on a new expansion for your child if, you know, if you're thinking, well, things are expensive, and then your kid's not really maybe going off about how they're really excited to play it. Maybe they're talking about a different game, so that now the kid is thinking about, well, should I get this game or that game coming out? Not, you know, hold on to that money, mom or dad. I might want this other game.
Was a hard line in the sand. But Blizzard is not just Ian. We don't know what's being said inside the team. We don't know what competing interests that there are. There could be any number of discussions happening, especially as we get close to launch, because the closer to launch you get, often the more the anxieties of things going bad grow. Because of course, you're close to actually having to do the launch bit. But at this point, all you and I can do is wait and see. For the game's long-term future, I hope the ripcord talk is nonsense, because I want to see the experiment ran in the real world, and I say that with the knowledge of how Blizzard have changed the content design of the game to match their goals with the add-ons. But that's just me. How would you feel if Blizzard suddenly announced add-ons, except for weak ores?
I think we'll definitely see a huge influx of players, especially when it comes to the pre-patch. I think right now you're seeing a real lull in the amount of players that are here playing the game. It feels very dead right now in the game. We'll get to see and have a better picture of that once the patch drops January 20th. So a very good video by Bellular. I'll go ahead and put that down for you guys if you want. And yeah, we'll see what happens.